Have you ever been told you have a big ego? Do you even really know what that is? Is it something that you are proud of, or do those words flatten your fizz? So what exactly is this concept, and what role does it play for you? Well, it's the conscious part of your mind. It's the I, the me, and the mine too. It's what causes us to act in self-interest, to look after ourselves as number one. And it sits between the id and the superego, which each pull us in a different direction. Now that the theory is out of the way, I want to share an example of insight where someone could have ego out of their ears, but instead took a backseat with delight. When I was a much younger man, which feels at least a lifetime ago, long before the birth of this here YouTube, and way before I knew about the ego, I used to love the sound of the guitar, especially the distorted, wailing cry. The likes of Joe Satriani, John Petrucci, Nuno, and of course, the irrepressible Steve Vai. Listening to the complex riffs they played made me want to do exactly the same. And I got my first guitar at 14, convinced I was bound for fortune and fame. Predictably, none of that stuff happened. And these days, my guitars just gather dust. Occasionally when I see them hanging up, I think you should start again. You must. But now the music has become so complex that there's no way I could learn it. Perhaps I'm just more of a realist, and it's like my ego has died a bit. Take the band Polyphia, for example, which sounds a bit like a medical illness, and their guitarists Tim and Scotty, who exude utterly next-level brilliance. I've never heard anything like their scores, and I really mean everything I say. The licks they put out have been dubbed the most impossible guitar riffs to play. This band is something otherworldly. I'm glad they weren't around when I was a lad, because I'd probably have chucked my guitars away, and that thought really is quite sad. Anyway, despite them being one of the best, the most impressive and musically gifted, they released a music video quite recently, and my attitude towards them really shifted. I was watching their latest production, a mind-blowing song called Ego Death. The fretwork was blistering and melodic, and I thought they are truly blessed. But then something happened halfway. The camera rotated around a rooftop throne, and sitting there was old Steve Vai, and the video became about him alone. The tune he played truly floated, up to a place most will never reach, a lilting melody full of heavenly emotion, blue skies, open prairies, a deserted beach. The other musicians faded into the background, despite their immense skill and flair. All eyes, all cameras on the king, holding court on a rooftop bare. Now, I know Polyphia's getting something out of this, and I'm sure there's benefit for Steve too. But for them to have him on their video showed deference and respect through and through. It made me think a lot about our ego and the nonsense it often tells us, and why we need to rein it in, stopping it from making such a fuss. When we let our ego die just a little, we start to travel a higher path. We can take joy in the achievements of others, providing genuine praise and laughs. We are less likely to become jealous and be more honest in what we say. We crave external validation far less, no matter what metaphorical instrument we play. So while I know that I still have an ego, maybe I just need to be more aware of it, and now and again tell it to quieten down, occasionally ignoring it a little bit. Perhaps this was the video's purpose, or maybe it's just a cool collaboration, but it brought out overwhelm in me, mixed adoration and fascination. I know I'll never play a guitar like Steve. Those skills will never be in my possession, yet lacking these, him and Polyphia have still managed to teach me a lesson.